Thank you, everyone, and welcome to the Licensing Committee of Monday, the 20th of September 2021. I'll hand you over straight away to Sammy Wintoll to explain some housekeeping.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you to all those attending the Licensing Committee meeting this evening, and to those who are watching this meeting live via our YouTube channel. To those who are present with us this evening, I would just like to run through some brief housekeeping rules with you. Please could we ask you to use the hand sanitizer when entering and exiting the room, and you'll find sanitizers located within the room. We ask that face coverings are worn when moving around the room and are only removed when you are seated or standing to talk on an item. We are not expecting any test fire drills this evening. If you should hear a fire alarm, please make your way out of the room and down the stairs where officers will assist you to the evacuation location. This can be found across the road outside of the Star Hotel. Anybody requiring help in the event of an evacuation, please make yourself known and the relevant assistance will be provided. Please could I ask that all mobile phones are either switched off or put onto silent mode. And members, I will remind you that should you wish to speak, please raise your hand and wait for myself or the chairman to acknowledge you, and your name will be added to those wishing to speak. When called to speak, you will then be required to press the button on your microphone in front of you. When voting this evening, this will be undertaken by a show of hands. Thank you, Chairman.
Yes, thank you, Sammy. We'll move straight to the agenda, and item number 1 is apologies for absence. Do we have any?
Thank you, Chairman. We have apologies this evening from Councillor Cordina Ackenbach. We have a substitute of Councillor Trevor Wainwright. We have apologies from Councillor Brian Walker, Councillor Michael Deal, Councillor Stenhouse, and we have a substitute of Councillor Robert Price. And apologies from Councillor Gaylor, and we have a substitute of Councillor Geoffrey Freeman. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Sammy. On to item number 2. Are there any declarations of interest? Okay, I'll take that as a no. Item number 3 is the implementation of a fit and proper test for managers of park home sites. For details, I'm going to hand over to our officer tonight from Environmental Health.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hopefully you had a chance to have a read of the report. Basically, the report goes through the new legal requirement for local authorities to maintain a register of fit and proper persons in relation to the management of mobile home sites. We have 12 residential mobile home parks across the borough at the moment. They are well managed. This requirement is an additional requirement to the licensing of the mobile home parks, and basically means that each mobile home park must have a fit and proper person running the park, which basically, so the council has pulled together a draft policy for your acceptance today, goes through the details of what we would expect in relation to the fit and proper person test. There is a fee associated with that. It's a small cost of £145 purely to process that. And it's a once every no longer than 5 years, so we'll be processing them every 5 years. So it's a relatively small cost to the park owners. This basically will mean that in addition to the licensing scheme, that we have a check on the person running the site and that they are fit and proper, and anyone who doesn't meet that criteria will be added to a register of people who are not fit and proper to manage those sites. I would like to point out to members, there has been one slight amendment to the policy since it was sent out to yourselves in item 3, where it talks about considerations that are relevant to the fit and proper person assessment. There is 2 additions to that. There is so in addition to the A to G items you see, item H has been added, and it's a member, and that makes me sure that they are a member of a redress scheme for dealing with complaints in connection with the management of the site. That's standard practice now with most housing related issues, that there is a redress scheme in place. And obviously, as we've mentioned earlier, if local authorities rejected the application, then that is added to a register that person has been rejected and is not a fit and proper person. They're the only 2 amendments, and that's based on some legal advice we received today, so apologies for the late notice on that. Other than that, the policy as is, it's pretty much in line with it is in line with the statutory guidance, so there isn't much leeway in terms of what we can to do in addition to this, so we welcome the committee's approval for the policy and the fee structure we are proposing. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Members, do you have any questions of the officer? Councillor Wainwright.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very, very good report. And there's, we do need something like this, basically. I mean, I've been involved in mobile home parks for some years, in Bradmore especially, and I think this is a great step forward, basically, and I fully recommend it, and I'd like to move the recommendation.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Wainwright. We will hear from others before we do move it. Councillor Hanton.
Thank you, Chairman. I've got a couple of questions, if you'll indulge me, or I'll split them up. Which is...
Well, you just ask away.
Okay. The first question concerns the declaration of convictions. And my question would be, what, if any, is the timescale? This is number 3 on your policy, which really transposes what the Act says. What, if any, is the timescale in respect of declaring past convictions? In that respect, I note that 10 years is mentioned for insolvency and disqualification of a company director. But it seems to me, and I did look through it, unless I've missed it, both the Act and the policy, and our policy or draft policy, is silent as to when convictions would take effect. And in this respect, does the Rehabilitation of Offenders Act not apply? And if it doesn't apply, why isn't that in the policy? That's my first question.
That's a very good question, Councillor Hatton. I'm looking at the statute itself direct. It doesn't have any specific timeframes in it. What I can do is go back and check that, but basically it's as verbatim as is written within our policy is actually in the statute.
Yeah, so I know it, when I said it's transposed, I know there's the same wording appeared in the Act as in the policy, but ordinarily, I mean, we have a statement to the effect that, if there's a time period where you don't have to declare a conviction, then they normally say that the Rehabilitation of Offenders doesn't apply, but that strikes me that is so open-ended. You could be about 75 and something you did at 20, you'd have to declare it. And
it may well be you have to declare it, but was he taken into consideration if it's that long ago and it's a minor offence? Actually, it might not be relevant to the fit and proper person test, so I would envisage that as the way that it would work if it's not specified a specific timeline.
Okay, well, my second question is, who or what are the first-tier tribunal property chamber in respect of whom a applicant might appeal to any refusal?
So the first tier tribunal are related to anything housing related, so housing appeals, and obviously this is a housing related, it's licensing, but it's focused on the housing aspect. So they are a first tier tribunal. They are a group of professional officers who are put together. They come together when people appeal to those tribunals. There is a number of tribunals held within the Norfolk area, and they're brought together. There's normally a housing expert, and they're all trained individuals. So it's basically trained professionals who sit on that tribunal.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Price.
Thank you, Chairman. I think I might, hopefully, subject to the officer checking, there is a term called spent convictions, and once that term has passed, the person is actually not counted as having a record as such. I'm not sure what term that is. It may be 10, 15 or 20 years. But once that term has been through, you're not really supposed, I believe, under law, to use that against him in the application of his work or whatever. But perhaps you'd like to check that through the legal department, and then that might sort that one out. But my question was going to be, on top of that, I agree this is a good document and it's much needed with the residential homes. Is there going to be a spin-off to the holiday ones where we have the 11-month type properties? Will that apply to them?
So it doesn't apply to those currently. It might be something that is something brought on. Obviously this relates to residential, so that is their permanent residential home. So that's the reason this has been brought in. At the moment it doesn't go any further than that. It might be something that the government consider moving forwards.
Thank you, Chairman.
Yes, thank you. Any more questions from the floor? I do have a couple of questions. Can I ask who actually decides to grant this licence?
So it's a delegated decision at officer level, so the officer will pull together the information and it will be delegated to myself to make those decisions.
Yes, thank you. And lastly, In paragraph 8, next steps, I'm sorry my pages aren't numbered here so I can't refer to it. Preliminary discussions have been held with all site owners, etc. Can you just give us an idea of what the feedback was on that?
Yes, so we've had quite a lot of communication to and from in relation to the owners. They are, I would say, chomping at the bit to apply. So they're knocking at our door to apply. There's been nothing but positive feedback in relation to this. They know it's been coming for a while, and they're very keen to get on with it and to get apply and get those applications in to make sure they're compliant with this new legislation.
Thank you very much. Councillor Wainwright, you moved this to approve. Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Bensley, thank you. With that, a show of hands to approve this, please. That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda, number 4, is any other business. I've not been notified of any other business at all. There's no need to exclude the public because we're at the end of the meeting, and thank you all very much for attending.